Hey y'all, welcome to Southern Sober and Sassy.
Hello.
It is May. What a great month. It's been Mother's Day, but what we want to talk about today is May is mental health awareness. And I think what I wanted when I was talking to Kristy earlier, hello Kristy, hello.
Hello.
I was telling her about, I said, I talked about it being mental health month, of course, but it's not just about mental health. It's about our recovery and our emotional sobriety. And being from the South, and this may be everywhere, but the Southern culture, we don't talk about things enough, right? We sweep them under the rug. We sweep them under the rug. And we are all about healing instead of hiding and grace over perfection. I think that's a big key part and component when we're talking about mental health. You know, um, in the South, but I'm sure a lot of other places too. I was taught to say I'm fine and hide back the tears. Have anxiety in my chest. Um, Cooking the casserole and fighting in the car to church, and then walking up saying I'm fine, you're fine, everything's fine. Silently struggling. I think that's something, a stigma that I think we're moving against, we're moving away from, is sitting in silence. But I think too, I want to talk about our mental health recovery. And while healing, what we need to know, healing is not a weakness, it's actually very courageous. Recovery is more than putting down the drink, it's more than the toxic relationship and learning how to move away from that or unhealthy behavior. It's learning how to care for our mental health without shame. What do you think about that, Kristy?
Well, I think, a couple of things. Number one, you said that, we're not going to talk about it. We don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. One thing about you and I is we talk about it. And when you come on this podcast, we're going to talk about it and we're going to pick it apart. And we're going to look at the pros and the cons and the highs and the lows and the goods and the bads. And because the goal is for y'all to get better. Whoever is listening, the goal is always to get better. And the way that we do that is to identify the problem first and talk about the problem a little to where we can move into the solution because we're tired of talking about the problem. You're tired of talking about the problem. I'm tired of living the problem, and you're tired of living the problem. So it's like, let's get to the good stuff to where, we can have a beautiful, wonderful, healthy life. And one of the things that Amy and I were talking about prior to this podcast was identifying what specifically my definition of mental health is. And I have a tunnel vision on what mental health is. My mind immediately goes to a mental health diagnosis that requires medication. However, I was wrong because it can include so much more than that. For example, I have not ever been diagnosed with a mental health disorder that requires medication. Some people may argue that I need to go do that, but so far I'm okay. I know when I want to try to kill somebody and I don't need to do it. So anyway, moving right along. However, mental health can still be the absolute exhaustion of an obsession in my mind that I have to have this drug, I have to have this alcohol, I have to have this person, I have to have this food, I have to have this sex, I have to gamble one more time in order to feel okay. And that does not require any kind of medication. It does not send me into psychosis that would require me to go to a mental health facility and and to get on medication in order to stabilize my mind. I'm all for that. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is that I had to back into it and say, just because I have tunnel vision of what I think it might be, that is the extreme case. What about prior to that? What about me not addressing the obsessive thinking in my mind? Because if you're on this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have had obsessive thinking about a person, place, thing, food, sex, drugs, alcohol, whatever. I'm powerless over blank and my life is unmanageable. And mentally, I cannot be free from that unless I do some recovery. So all of that had to happen, thank goodness, before I could have potentially needed to be on medication to prevent me from going into psychosis, because I was being stubborn, being arrogant, being defiant, and being avoidant. The day came that I had to fess up, sit down, and say, all right, I do have an addiction problem. I can't stop alcohol. I do need to recover. And as a result of me taking responsibility for my full lot, which was a lot, recovery became very rampant, very quick, very healthily on a new path. It happened very, very quickly once I took responsibility for that. As a result of that, I now have peace of mind. I do not have obsessive thinking. I have a healthy body. I have a healthy soul. I have a healthy heart for the most part. I have been given the tools of how to get rid of unhealthy mental obsessions. And it is my responsibility to pick up those tools, use those tools, and continue to use them if I want healthy peace of mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, and talking about, I'm not a doctor, and there are true diagnoses with schizophrenia, severe depression, severe anxiety. There's a lot. And what we're talking about is the mental health isn't separate from recovery, because your emotional sobriety matters, and dry, when we're quote dry, doesn't always mean we're healed. Okay, just because we've stopped the drinking or drugging doesn't mean we're healed. You can still be sober and be anxious or angry. You can also be depressed. That's just part of it, especially coming off drinking and drugging with substances and also behavior addictions. Also, I compare this, just being in the South, is I had written a blog about Mother's Day, and I compared it to magnolias. And when I was working on from this podcast, I wrote this down, and I think it talks reason about it, because it's talking about its comparison. It says, magnolias bloom beautifully in southern heat and storms. Recovery and mental health are similar. Healing doesn't happen because life becomes easy. It happens because we learn to root ourselves deeper. Rooting ourselves deeper, because for me, I can go to a meeting all day long. I can call my sponsor. I can talk to my therapist. I can go to the doctor. That doesn't take away with my because I am ADHD. I mean, I was diagnosed at 13 years old, and bless my mother's heart, we walked out of the doctor's office and she said, Jesus is going to heal her. Well, I have all the faith in the world in that. That was not my story. I then abused cocaine and alcohol for a long time, and then there was a point in time where I'd do anything and everything because I wanted to numb the pain that I felt. And until I truly got sober, there's a difference. Sobriety and recovery are different. Sober is off of all of the substances and working diligently on changing our behaviors. But until I learned about a recovery lifestyle which is not just people, places, and things. It's my mental, my emotional, my spiritual, my physical, and financial. My life was still unbalanced. You know, I manage my ADHD with exercise, I manage it with eating. I can't eat a lot of sugar. And I had to get off medicine because I did damage to my kidneys, you know, from doing stupid amounts of cocaine for a long time. So for me, high functioning does not mean that we're healthy. It's about learning to pause. It's about learning to pause. And that, you know, a lot of people, even in our professional world, you know, professionals, moms, dads, caregivers, executives, nurses, first responders, just because we look at them as being successful on the outside, it may be falling apart internally. Mental health is not just a diagnosis. Mental health affects every single person. You know, especially when you're in high stressful jobs. If you're not taking care of yourself, mental health improves. Kristy, you just did a TikTok on this about pretending. Mm-hmm. Mental health improves when we stop pretending and we get honest and we ask for help. People have so much shame around it. I think people are coming around now more, but emotional sobriety is where it's at because we have to look at how we're feeling, what we're thinking, which leads to what we're doing. And mental health, again, I'm not a doctor, but I know that, you know, sobriety gave me clarity, and healthy mental health is giving me the peace that I deserve.
You know, one thing that I have a whole lot of is common sense. And so I have to break things down A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. I look at the words mental health. So black and white, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Is my thinking healthy today? For today, yes it is. Yesterday, I may have had, let's say, a job interview. And my brain was spinning. Oh, what are they going to think about me? Do I look okay? Do I sound okay? Am I wearing the right thing? Am I going to be on time? You know, no. I hope that I said the right thing. Blah, 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 blah. And my mind would be unhealthy. My thinking would be unhealthy. Another thing is the comparison of life just in general. Comparison, every time I compare, I lose. Every time I compare, I lose. Comparing myself to all the Joneses. Here's the thing. There are no Joneses. There are no Joneses. But when I start to compare, it makes me have unhealthy thinking. And the basic common sense word for that is pretending. And it is me telling myself mentally that I am not as good as blank. Therefore, I have to try harder. I have to do this. I have to spend more money. I have to bail him out of jail again. I'm not a good parent. I could be better. I'm not a good spouse. I could, blah, 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 blah. Here is another thing that is just so common sense, basic 101 for me. And it's 2 words versus 3 words. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. When I say I'm okay, I back it all the way, I take it all the way down. Mentally, am I okay? Physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, I'm okay. I mean, I own it, man. I go all the way down the list. Or I say, I'm not okay. Now, it took me almost 40 years to say, I'm not okay. Because of pride. Because of ego. Because of trying to keep up with the Joneses. Because of pretending. Oh no, I got it going on. If anything, you want to be like me. Ha! Ha! and I ended up in rehab. Okay? You don't want to be like me. Anyway, I was believing the ultimate lie. I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
And we don't have to be okay. I think that then it goes to I'm fine, you're fine, everything is fine.
Right.
With all of the Christmas lights wrapped around, you as a person because you're trying to hang them on the tree. I mean, that's what I visualize when I think I'm fine, you're fine, everything's fine. But we don't have to be fine, and we don't have to be okay. The stigma is that we do, especially as professionals. We're supposed to have it all together all the time. And a lot of times you see so much mental health burnout, okay? It doesn't mean they have a mental health diagnosis. It means their mental health is struggling. And, even going back, I think too, when we look at that, whether you're sober, you're struggling, healing, caregiving, or simply exhausted, you are not weak for needing help. Just because somebody is put together, I'll tell you this, just because somebody is put together doesn't mean they aren't privately falling apart. Mental health is with recovery. Mental health ties into anxiety. Mental health turns into burnout. And what it is we have to learn to unlearn silence and speak out. And if you're hurting and need help, we want you to reach out. There's so many organizations. You can email us for resources. NAMI is a great resource. They have recovery support meetings for patients and for families. Even you go back even to the recovery, even Al-Anon. If you have a loved one that is not an alcoholic or an addict but is struggling with mental health, Al-Anon is a great resource too, because it breaks down about family boundaries. It talks about, do you have caregiver-itis, trying to take care of everybody else. And I think what it boils down to is we are so in tune and wanting to help everybody else, we forget about ourselves, and that's where our mental state becomes unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Is we're so focused on everyone else, because we don't have to look in the mirror, by the way, of our own stuff. But when we're so just spot on, lasered onto everybody else, that is mentally unhealthy.
We lose ourselves when we do that,
which leads to anxiety and anxiety because they're not doing what I want them to do. Depression because they're not doing what I want them to do. You fall into a mental health crisis because you were not willing to focus on your own mental health.
I needed someone to tell me that focusing on myself was not selfish. I needed someone to tell me that. And that focusing on myself was healthy, and that it was okay, and that it was necessary. And I had always been told the opposite, which was, you got to work harder. We don't get tired around here. You have to keep moving up the ladder of success. You have to keep raising these kids. You have to keep going. You have to do it. You have to try harder. You don't rest. We don't rest around here. That's the way that I was taught as from my dad. Now, my dad, instilled positive thinking in us, which I'm very, very thankful for. But it was also on overkill, and it was also on overdrive. And all of my worth and value came from the success of my work. And that was instilled in my brain from the age of 6 moving forward. That's all that I knew, and I crashed and burned. And here's the thing, is that everyone will end up crashing and burning, because our mind and our emotions and our physical body can only handle so much. Oh, but Superwoman and Superman keeps going until mentally we have a crash out. Emotionally, we have a crash out. Physically, we have a crash out because we have pushed ourselves beyond the limit. You'll either lay down or you'll be laid down. And unfortunately for me, I got laid down, and you'll either be humble or humiliated. And, I got laid down because of my pride and my ego would not lay down. So I got told, and I got laid down, and it was very humiliating. But as a result of that, I realized what the heck was really going on, and it's going to make me cry. I was able to have just one person that I told everything to, and I genuinely, in my heart and in my soul, wanted to get better. And it was just a tiny bit of a desire of willingness to get better. And that's all that it took. And with every step that I took, with every conversation that I had with her, with every page that I read out of literature, with every group and meeting that I went to, or every podcast that I listened to, bit by bit by bit by bit by bit, I got better and better. Every baby step matters. And now I have such a beautiful, peaceful, empowered life that I guard it with a vengeance, with an absolute vengeance. And no, I will not backtrack. And if I feel like I am, I'm very quick to say, I'm not okay. I'm quick to say, I'm not okay.
Yeah. When you get caught up in our head, I get caught up in my head. There's lots of squirrel. The squirrel committee wakes up every morning and is ready to go. And with the way my brain works, I've got 6 different things going on and 3 others waiting in the wings to start happening. And I catch myself talking fast. I will talk about 3 conversations in 1 sentence, literally. And a lot of times I have learned how to pause before I speak. I write it out. I say, okay, this is the plan. This is what I'm doing today, because I can get caught up with excitement. That's the hyperactivity in me, and have some great ideas. But until I put the pedal to the metal and implement those ideas, that's all they are, which can then lead back to my frustration, my fear of rejection. And it is all a vicious cycle when I can't get out what I want to get out. And so my mental health depends on me physically, me emotionally, me mentally, of course, and me spiritually and financially. It is all in one. And it starts up here in my mind. And if I do not speak about it, if I do not write about it, and if I do not get down with God and pray about it, I will end up a mess for the day. Literally. Yeah. And so I think mental health awareness is, yes, definitely most honoring those people who are doing the best they can with what they have. Hopefully they're getting the help they need with the doctors and physicians, nurse practitioners. If they're on medication, I'm not a deterrent of medication. I'm also not a doctor. That's not what we're here. That's not our platform. We want you to seek medical attention. And sometimes we do need those medical professionals to get stabilized. And I'm all about that. But I do know that we have the opportunity, with so many resources out there today, is to get the help we deserve. We all know we need it. Everyone needs help, whether you want to admit that or not. Everyone needs help, but more importantly, I want people to know they deserve the help. We all deserve healing, and it's time. If your mental health is off balance and you don't feel well and you're having emotional days more than others, I'm going to encourage you to get help. And if you don't know where resources are, you can reach out, info@pursuitofrecovery.com, and we can do a free consult and find help for you, whether you have insurance or not.
That is what we are here for, is for people to say, I'm not okay and I want to get better. Now, and we will help give you those resources. If not, even if it's, or it could just be Amy and I, talking you off the cliff of a bad day, or it could be something more serious than that. Regardless of what it is, we are here to help you, and that is why we do these podcasts, is to help people. Period. So whatever you may need, reach out to us.
And remember the magnolia tree. It grows in storms, it grows in heat. All you need to do is start being rooted in who you want to be. Because guess what? Change is so possible. We get to change, reinvent, recoup what we lost at times. You have the opportunity to change today. You get the help you deserve, and you will not imagine the possibilities, especially the miracles they talk about in recovery.
And it is so worth it. I tell people all the time, if this side of recovery did not feel good, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. It's worth it.
It's more than worth it.
Type the email, type the text, make the phone call, whatever you need, reach out for help. We're here to help you.
And we hope you all have a fabulous rest of your week and happy mental health awareness.
Yes, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
See ya.